and creating a template. Before we get into that, though, we had talked about other data providers, and I just wanted to point out, because this is kind of hidden on the website a little bit, but if you go to FibonacciTrader.com, I just want to show you guys where this is, because let's say you decide that you want to try a different provider or something. Here, supported real-time data vendors. You see this? And I'll show you the one that's hidden the most. And the website is evolving, of course. But if you're interested in interactive brokers data, there's a nice little page on here about setting up the program to work with interactive brokers. It's only a couple of things you have to click in the interactive brokers trading workstation. And then also the symbol format, symbol setup, is right here. And there are examples for the minis, for stocks, for Forex. So you're not out in the cold if you want to use interactive brokers data. All the examples are here. And this is how I learned to do it. It was just by reading the information on this page. Just go through, again, from the Fibonacci Trader homepage, just go through supported real-time data vendors right here. Okay, I'll do both the pointer and the... Okay? Supported real-time data vendors, and then any information you might need about how to set up the program to work with any particular vendor is under the vendor listing. Okay? So that's really all you have to know about that. And if you follow the instructions, they're accurate. I mean, it's worked for me for the IB stuff. So let's yeah. See, we didn't trigger. We were looking at this Gartley before, and it didn't trigger for us. So. Which is a good thing because it broke through. Let's clear the stuff off the chart, because they're just a bunch of wacky lines anyway. And we can talk about adding an indicator. We'll add an indicator and create a template, so you'll see how that can be added automatically to other charts. So what kind of indicator we'd like to add? Let's say, the CCI. We'll just use that as an example for now, and we can play with some of the others if you'd like. Indicator box up here, the indicator menu. One of the problems with this program is that it doesn't have many indicators to choose from. Okay. I'm sorry, but there's only... Yeah, that's a good idea. I've seen some charts. So you have a few things to choose from. Most of the indicators, first of all, any indicator that is proprietary to the program, there will be a page of information on the Fibonacci Trader site explaining what the indicator does, how to use it, how to apply it to the charts. There's also a lot of good information about some of the more basic indicators as well, what they do, what the formulas are. Let's say I just wanted to add a CCI for the moment. CCI is not listed that way. It's listed as Commodity Channel Index, which is what it's really called. You can double click it or hit add here. I have mine set to default to a 50 period because that's the main one that I use. And just hit exit. Once it's up in this box, the top box tells you what you actually have on that chart. Hit exit. And there you have the indicator. Okay? Let's go back in, though, and take a look at what we might want to do with that indicator. Go back and click Indicators, Commodity Channel Index. You can either, up here, you can either double-click it or hit Edit. This dialog box is similar in all of the indicators. These are the options about how you might want the indicator displayed. Some basic choices here: the color of the indicator, the style, which means, do you want it thicker, thinner, a dashed line, a solid line, and so on. Subchart. Okay, now what subchart means, there are 6 slots for this in the program on each chart. Chart 1 is actually the chart where the price data is. So let's say you wanted to take an indicator like a moving average and put it right on price. You can do that, though, with any indicator. Some people will take the CCI and overlap that on price. Easier to spot divergences, for example. I can't read a chart that way, but I know some people who will. What you do in that case is change this to chart 1, and your CCI would actually appear up here with price. The other indicators that you add to the chart just choose these sequentially. In other words, if you wanted, the CCI defaults to subchart 6. If you wanted to have another indicator here, you'd choose chart 5, or chart 4, or chart 3, or chart 2. In other words, that's how you sequence vertically where the indicators are showing up on the chart. Symbol. Okay, I'm not really sure why people do this, but they do. Maybe to differentiate at a glance what they're seeing on their charts. You might want to change, instead of a line, you can have this be a series of X's or a series of arrows, whatever you'd like to do. I mean, again, it's a matter of the program being extremely flexible. Draw type, would I rather have a histogram, a line? This is all visually, to change the charts around so it can speak to you more clearly. Where do you want your overbought, oversold lines? The standard on the CCI is at 100 and minus 100. What do you want the color to be? Alarms. Do you want it to give you automatic alarms, like when the CCI crosses the 0 line, crosses out of, into overbought or oversold? You can set it so the program will give you an alarm. I was going to say will alarm you. Well, maybe if you're going to trade in the other direction, it will alarm you. But that will give you whatever kind of alert you want. I don't use those personally, but they are available. Scaling. This one I do use. Take a look at this. I better pick this up. If you don't set the scaling to a fixed amount and your indicator bottoms out way down low or comes up out of the chart in this direction, it's going to change where your 0 line and your 100 lines are. And this is true in any indicator whenever you have an overbought, oversold line. You might want to consider, just so you can really read this more easily, locking your scaling so that these remain always at the point of the 100 lines on the chart. In other words, you don't want to see these kind of crazy numbers that are out of alignment with what the true value is at any given time with the indicator. I just find it easier to read that way. So what you might want to do, for instance, CCI is an example. It rarely travels outside of 300 or minus 300. So you can set fixed values. Minus 300, max 300. Now watch how this changes it. Okay, you see how the 0 line now is right in the middle, and you have fixed numbers 150 and 150 to keep things just stable with the 0 line always in the middle. Because what would happen otherwise, let's say you really ran into a very strong overbought situation where your indicator is all the way up here. This stuff is going to shift down. Your 0 line on your indicator, and again, this could be a MACD, it could be any indicator, your 0 line is going to end up all the way down here, and at a glance, when you look at that chart, you're going to be like, what is that saying to me? It doesn't make any sense. This way it locks it all in place. So, and as I said, these indicators, these indicator adjustments are the same, just about the same on every indicator. The only difference being that if there's some indicator that has a specific, specific setting that only works with that indicator, there might be an extra tab to adjust it. You shouldn't be using that indicator unless you know what that adjustment does anyway. Leonard, did you have a question?
I was going to say, what if you want to put another indicator on that same?
Yep, that's what we're going to do.
On the same line, but doesn't affect the maximum and minimum on that one.
That's another reason why you'd want to lock the scaling. In other words,
So lock it for all of them.
well, you lock the scaling on the one. Okay, let's say, for instance, that I wanted to overlap a stochastic on that. Okay, you would lock the scaling on the one that you want to give priority to. So in other words, if it were more important to you, if you're watching what the stochastic does in relation to the CCI, you would lock the CCI and let the stochastic do its thing and oscillate up and down. Okay, actually, that's an interesting exercise. Something you can do with the program. Let me just show you this here. The default on most of the indicators is to set to own period. Own meaning the first time frame on the chart. This box is going to have any particular adjustments that you might be able to make to, that should be a Dropbox. Oh, Carlos updated that. I didn't even know. I mean, I was using an older version. This would be the adjustment to whether or not you want to have the indicator key off of, in this case it's median is M, which means that it's the open, high, low, close, or I'm sorry, high, low, close divided by 3 is the median. Do you see what I'm saying, or did I lose everyone there? The CCI is generally calculated on the median, or the average of the bar. Some people might want to have it so that it's calculated on the open, so you choose O. Length is the period of the indicator. This one's a 50. Offset, some people like to move, you guys know what offset is, right? That's just where you adjust it. If you want to have it so that it's, you do that usually with moving averages. In case you want to see if the moving average is going to catch price, you might move it ahead by a couple of bars. Let's add another indicator. And we could try, actually, this is an interesting thing we can do. Let's take our CCI again and add it. This one I'm going to leave in the same subchart, subchart 6, but I'm going to make this next period. In other words, this is going to be based on the 15-minute data. See? Own, next, and highest. So I can tell at a glance what's what. I'll change the color. Okay? So, what this is telling us, not enough data on the chart really to get that, much of a CCI on the next period, but what this is saying to me at the moment is that we have a short-term cross above 0, but our higher time frame has not yet crossed above 0 to confirm longer-term trend. Now, that's what this is saying to me. The point is, for you guys, you can do the same kind of thing with any combination of indicators. However you want to read what's happening with the market, the program will allow you to superimpose indicators from different time frames right on the same subchart if you wanted to. Doesn't have to be CCIs. It could be a series of stochastics, or it could be a CCI and a stochastic, or a stochastic and a MACD. On one subchart, you can see, for instance, a lot of people use the combination of MACD on a higher time frame and stochastic on a shorter time frame. Actually, I was doing that in 1991 when I was following Dr. Elder's work. Would have been great to have been able to have one chart with a 15-minute MACD showing overall trend and a stochastic from the shorter time frame right on top of it to show whether or not you're overbought or oversold in relation to the higher time frame. And that's what you can do with this program. Put it all on one chart, and at a glance, you'd be able to see what your higher term trend is saying about your shorter term price action. Yes, sorry.
In this example, did you lock your range for the own or for the...
In this example, I locked the range for the own. That's why the chart is, if I had done it the other way around, it would look a little bit better. I just had the idea to do this multiple time frame thing on one chart after we locked the first one. You can experiment with that just to see how you prefer it to look. In other words, if I took the next period one, locked the scaling, okay, let's see what this does. Okay, as I expected, it wouldn't do anything because we only changed the 1. Let's take this and lock it to, okay. Yeah, that actually, what I just did was I locked the shorter time frame one to what the higher time frame one is doing. The CCI for the shorter time frame now is out of scale. It's way out of range. You have to, if you're going to create your own combination of indicators on one subchart, you have to experiment with that. Main lesson here, because I had to learn this the hard way too, is that if you do something like this and all of a sudden it's like, where's my indicator? Why did it disappear? You have a problem with the scaling. That's all it amounts to. You have to experiment with that so you get the right combination. Let's use the combination I just mentioned, by the way. It would be a good way of demonstrating that. I'm just going to take these guys off the chart. Let's say we used a MACD. Why that's not scrolling the way it should. MACD. So chart 6. Okay, there's a basic MACD without the histogram, just the crossover. Let's take our MACD and move it to our next period. You see how there are a few more options here on this main page on the indicator edit window? Because these are the appropriate options for MACD. What you want each of the moving averages to be, and so on. You know, we obviously can't go through each indicator and look at each option. If you're interested in an indicator, you probably know what each of these options means. So I'm just going to move this to the next time period, next time frame, which means that the MACD is going to key off the 15-minute data. Okay, so it will look like this. Now, let's go back to our indicators and find a stochastic. Here we go. And we'll add this one. This is set to own period. This is a fast stochastic. I mean, it's pretty fast to 5 period, but okay, that landed in its own subchart. What I want to try to do now is combine them. See how that came out? The default setting for stochastic, let me use the pointer because is subchart 2. So it came up above subchart 6. But if we go to subchart on the edit stochastics and set it for 6, see? They're together now. I can make it a little smaller. You guys know about that, right? You can just grab the line and change how that is. So now, what is this saying? This is saying that, well, what it's giving us the ability to do is to look at the overall trend using our MACD. Yeah, this thing is dying. That's why it's not working too well. Yeah, that one's too dim. You can look at the overall trend with the MACD. Okay, you're overbought, you had a crossover, and look at when the stochastic is bouncing and giving you short triggers in relation to your longer term MACD trend. I'm not advising that you trade that way, I'm not advising that you don't trade that way, I'm just showing you what the program can do. Thanks. Oh, yours. You have to pull it, okay. Twist it or, oh, the button. Oh, that's bright. You get the idea? That you can take this stuff and overlay totally different indicators based on different time frames on one subchart, if you want to do that. Later on, we can go into how I have my chart set up. Chris will go into how he has his chart set up also, so that we can be ready to work together over the weekend. But right now, we just want to show you what the program can do in that regard. Let's say I really like this chart. Say I really liked how this chart looks, which I don't particularly. I would play around with, even if I wanted to trade this way, I would go into indicators, stochastics, change the colors, change how those green dots are printing out. I don't like that stuff. So you would do that just by going in here, changing, might change the thickness a little bit. And again, there's a lot of information on each indicator on the website with recommendations about how you might want to make cosmetic changes to it. So let me just add here, since I like the 34 EMA so much, I'm going to go back to moving averages. This should be scrolling, but now it is. Exponential. Let me edit it because I probably have a color that's not too good for this. Yeah, that's not going to show up too well on white. Okay, you see how this is set for subchart 1 because I want this to actually show up on price. Okay, so now we have our multiple time frame indicator set up down below, and we have our 34 EMA on price. Another thing you can do, by the way, is if you go to open the chart options, you can have the indicator names. You see where this is? Indicator names show up right on the chart. I usually have that shut off because just for my eye, I know what each indicator is, and it's too cluttering. It clutters the chart too much. And here, this is showing you the indicator information, MACD. Up here it says moving average. The advantage of having those on the charts, though, is that if you right-click the name, you can immediately have access to the edit window, show values, setting an alarm. You can set an alarm on it right there just by right-clicking. Here. I can set an alarm if the EMA is at a certain price. Yes, Leonard?
How many set alarms are really good as loud? You're out there doing something else and you're really good.
Turn up the volume on your computer.
I do that, but it tells you to go pick up some kind of a signal somewhere, anyway, I guess I get lost interest.
Would that be an alarm, or having it email you, or?
No, not email, an alarm that would go, like ping or whatever it's going to do.
You probably have to choose.
You got to switch the sound.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you have to choose a sound then. You have to. Let's take a look at that. You mean from the alarm things and utilities? Where do you see that? Where are you trying to set an alarm?
I forget over the years I've done that.
Here. Well, okay.
You want to set it over that it goes over
Say a price line.
it goes over a price line or something like that. So
Okay. Well, in general, what you can do is if you go to utilities, global settings, that global settings window, sounds and alarms. Okay. So if you set to speaker, all that's going to do is ping your built-in computer speaker, which is not loud. That's always just going to be a little bink.
Not louder than the lawnmower.
Right, really. Play wave file is what you might be looking for. And then where is the thing to choose the wave file? I forget, it's been so long since I've done that. Sorry?
In the alarm list?
Where's
Look at the alarm list? Or?
Play wave.
where the wave file thing is, the wave file selection?
Click on
File name.
play wave file?
And then you click on file name after you do
Oh, does it come up then? I thought it only comes up when you set an alarm, actually. Play wave file. Okay, file name. So you need to have a file, a wave file, a sound file on your computer that does that. You have a whole bunch of them actually right in your Windows folder. All your system sounds that that play when you start Windows or when you have an email alert. They're all
You can import them too.
yeah.
download.
Download.
Yeah, let's just see, where are there should be a media folder. Here, media. Say, these are all your system sounds. You just go into, if you don't want to bother downloading new sounds or whatever, here. Yeah, and wherever you have your Windows folder, there's a subfolder called media.
So that folder, you can import like sounds off the internet if you want frogs croaking or crickets chirping or whatever. You can import them, but make sure you file it into that file.
Or have your wife record something that says, "Did you lose money again?" Use that one. So if I wanted to choose Windows XP exclamation, for instance, I'd choose that one. And I have my volume down here, but I hit test and it played. Okay, so that would be selected now as the sound.
And what are the conditions that that sound would go off?
Well, that we just actually set in global settings. We chose that as the alarm sound. We didn't set.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't set an actual alarm. Let's take a look at that. Actually, what's that?
You're gonna think you did something wrong.
Oh, I always think I did something wrong. You know that. Okay, let's finish up what we were doing though first, and then we'll get into alarms. Okay. So let's say we like this chart. We like this format. What I can do now is right-click on the chart, go to Template, Save as New, and let's call this MACD Stoke. Okay, just to abbreviate it. Okay, now we have a template. What does that mean that we have a template? It means that we can go over to another chart and right-click it, hit Template, Open and Replace, or you can just hit F8 to do that. And let's find that template. Ta-da! Okay, it's applied to a new chart. So that means you don't have to recreate those settings on another chart. You can apply any of the templates of your choice, any that you've created or borrowed or imported from friends. And you can even say template set as default. That's why when I first created charts earlier, they all came up with that gray background and my CCI stuff from a while ago and so on, because that was my default template. So if you set it as default, whenever you create a new chart, the chart's going to open up looking just like that with the indicators and so on. If you're adding a new security and you want it to be in your favorite setup, you'll have it all set up that way. Is that clear? Any questions on that? The template stuff?
But if you've got futures and stocks in two different folders and set as a default, is that going to go over to the stocks, or is
It will not change any of the charts that you've created already. In other words, if you've already created a bunch of futures charts and a bunch of stock charts, and then you set a template as default, it's not going to rearrange anything you've already done. You would have to go to each chart and apply the template to choose. If it linked, no, it's not going to. But once you set it for the default template, once you set it as the default template, any additional chart that you create will have that template, whether on any page, whether it's stocks, anything you want that way. Okay, so that's the template creation, and that's a pretty important tool to gain familiarity with. Anytime you want to change, let's say you want to look at the same data, you're like, well, I don't want to look at this with this template. Open and replace. As you can tell, I have a few templates here. Let's say I just want to switch back to my standard. Okay. And there you have it. That's it for the template creation and adding indicators. Are there any questions about adding the indicators or the edit indicator stuff?
In the edit indicators, the exposition.
That's exposition is to jostle things just a little bit. In other words, it's not really an offset. It's in case. That's generally used. Let's get one of those up actually. I think that's exposition. That's usually used when you have a combination of indicators that where they're scaled slightly differently, and so the scaling is knocking one a little bit to one side or the other. It's just to jostle it a little bit to bring things into better alignment. The only time I ever remember using that was with an old template that I don't use anymore. It's rarely needed. It's more of a technical adjustment to when things aren't displaying properly. A couple of tips that you might be helpful to know about. If you put several indicators on one subchart, let's say you put several CCIs, like I have here, on one subchart, you want to make sure that your line colors don't cancel each other out. And that happens a lot. That's one of the main help me things that I hear about with this. And what I mean is, if you have, I have 3 CCIs on one chart here, subchart 4, 3 different CCIs. I just double clicked on the 50 to open that up. Overbought, oversold. I have it 100, minus 100, line color red. All right, if I had my 14 period, overbought, oversold, set to a different color, they might cancel out because the colors actually would overwrite each other and it'll look like you have no overbought, oversold lines. So you either want to balance those out, or what I just sometimes do is get rid of the other overbought, oversold lines. That make sense? In other words, set them to 0. I'm trying to think about anything else that, based upon questions I've had in the past with this, any issues that I had to resolve. Worry.
How do this fit to where it says scale to fit this chart? Let's look at the indicator and subchart.
Right. Scale to indicate, scale to chart basically means whatever else is happening on the chart is going to be in charge of the scale. That's used very often when you're putting things on subchart 1 also. For instance, let's say that you were to stick, as I said, the CCI on over price. You might not want to leave it to decide how to scale on its own because it doesn't have any reference to price. Is not a CCI value, so it's going to be all over the place like this. Whereas if you have a defined chart area, in other words, this is my price action. If you say scale to chart, scale to fit chart, it's going to make sure that your CCI gets confined into the price zone. That's really all it means. It means whatever else is happening on the chart has control of the scaling. It's really more of a display issue than anything else. We can play with that if you want to see, but it depends on the indicator too. It depends on how you want which indicator you're using, how that's going to work. The alarm issues. It's been so long since I've done that, I forgot. Do you use alarms?
Not on this software, on another one.
Okay.
But yes, I do, yeah.
Okay.
And the SMS as well.
Oh, you use the SMS? Yeah, well, I would imagine longer term. Yeah, you'd want to. I used to play around with alarms with this a lot more, and I'm actually forgetting. Oops. No, it's not
To be
that.
honest with you, I don't...
You can set it straight from the trend line, Mark, if you wanted to.
Yeah, but I didn't want to. I just want to get a price alarm, not a trend line break.
Yes, price alarm.
It's not there. Yeah. Yeah, I was just doing that too, but I guess it's
Just a moment.
yeah, it's just, isn't it on here?
You can just take the arrow and move it. And just,
Here, chart alarm. It's right here. You can just right click on the chart in a blank area and hit chart alarm and new, and then you can, I think you go in here into the price structure, price area, and set it at the price where you want to have an alarm. If you hit edit, you can put in the specific price. Like if I wanted an alarm when this hits, takes out the prior swing low. Let's say if it breaks that extension. So I'll set the alarm now for 13,865. Okay. And you see the red line there?
or you can just move it. Just
Yeah.
hold on the-
Now it's doing. I wouldn't do it for me a minute ago. You know, I don't know why. I just made some changes to this computer, and I think I'm having a couple of problems with things reacting the way I expect them to. But anyway, isn't that been the story of my computer issues for the last 6 months? So yeah, right here, just right-click and chart alarm is fine, and click where you want it. And as Chris said, click and drag it. Okay. And as far as the sound it plays, you know, we set that before. So, you know, there you go. And it's good enough that it's showing you the price as you're adjusting it. So that's good, because that's an alarm I would want to have, actually. Is, you know, if that daily low is broken and it's against a level that's important to me, I'd certainly use that. Whose alarm is that?
Entire economy, I think.
Yeah. When you first click on it, you can't drag it. You have to click on it and then re-click on it in order to drag it.
Yeah, see, that's what it was doing to me before. Now it's dragging each time. So, did you just install it too?
Yeah. Just,
So when you go to Windows, to find the sound, and that's where I've run into issues, you go to Windows Media, and then anything that has these notes, are those sounds?
Yeah, well, they'll say wave .wav, unless you might have it set not to show extensions. Does it say .wav?
Under file name, it says .wav.
Yeah, there you go.
Those are all waves.
Yeah, well, some people turn off their extensions so they don't see that, but.
Mark,
And-
now that I've got the test CCI on the bottom, how do I get out of it? I'm trying to get out.
You have the test. See?
Yeah, just, you know, as we were working it through.
Okay, well, make sure you have the chart selected that you want. Go to indicators and click on any of these that you don't want there and hit delete. There you go. That's the stop trading for the day alert. Yeah.
Well, we're still on alarms. I think it's in emails, and they can automatically email you on like a trend line break or those price alarms.
Email alarms is in global. Really, you know, remember what I was saying before about how anything you want to see about adjusting an individual chart is in chart options. Generally, anything that you want to see about how to change things on the program is in global settings, utilities, global settings. Global settings is what we looked at earlier about how to set up default chart behavior. Other things are in here too, like email alarms. So you need to have your email account settings to put in there, and then here, see the options. Send email for trend lines.
Oh, and
Send email for system. I'm sorry.
that's what I was looking for the individual indicator.
Yeah, it's right there. Send email for individual indicators. Okay. So you have that there, and you just need to set up your email account stuff. I've never tried that. I think I will. Not that I'm ever out of the house while there are trades going on, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see how that works.
just a question for Carlo. Like if you send it to your SMS, is there anything in particular that you have to add?
Carlos?
Carlos?
Chris had a question.
If you're sending an alarm to your SMS, are you sending it to an email SMS or to an actual phone number, or is there anything quirky that you have to put in there? Like
Depending the company, I don't know, depending the company using. I know the T-Mobile is a phone number at t-mobile.com or something.
It has to be an email address, you mean? Yeah.
His email address.
Right.
You send to the phone, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no, I don't think there's no separate SMS function, right?
No.
No, it's just an email. So, yeah, if your phone has an email address, you do it that way. Yeah, okay, that's cool. Now, the easiest way, like I said, about putting the alarms on the indicators is if you leave those indicator names on. You know, edit in the chart options, show indicator names is going to give you more. You see how now I have each of my CCIs showing up here? And my moving average, which is a bad color, I know, but bad color for you guys to see it, but there's the name of it up there. Actually, let's use that as an example. If I right click, you see I have all these nice options here that I didn't have before because I didn't have the indicator name up. So I'll just hit edit and change the color up there so we can actually see that. Okay? And if I wanted, I right-clicked it, alarm on exponential moving average. Where is it now? It is, okay, I don't have the value set on it. If you click show values on the indicator, it's going to tell you right there. See, that's telling you what the current price is at that 34 EMA. So it's currently 13,961. I can set an alarm in any number of ways. I could tell it if it's greater than that price, for instance, which I might use if it's an EMA from a different chart, a time frame that's beyond the scope of the 3 time frames on this chart, or just, you know, we could do it that way. 13,961. Let's say if it hit 13,964. Okay, so that's set. And it'll act off the alarm options that you have there. Whether it's, if you have it checked to email you when you have the EMA cross, the indicator trigger. For me, I don't think I have a wolf sound that's quite as nice. That's what we'll have to do. We'll have to start a website for let's trade alarm noises. I think some people have those actually.
Hopefully Jeff's neighbor doesn't buy a wolf.
Alarm and heat.
Now, I know there were some questions also about saving pages. Okay, are we so everyone set on templates? We're all comfortable with templates and stuff? Okay, saving pages. This is kind of confusing in the program. This is another one that messed me up for a while. And there really is a decent little write-up on the website about it, but it's not good enough. Because again, the program gives you all kinds of options about how you might want to set up your pages. Why would you use a page? Anyone have an example of why they would use a page? In other words, a preset layout. Laurie?
Sometimes you want a 50-minute chart and a 75-minute chart.
Right.
So whenever you click on it, you get the 2 charts.
Right.
But I have found out the most you can put is 12 charts on the page. Is this correct?
I don't think so. I've had more than 12. Yeah, I've definitely had more than 12.
You can put a lot of charts.
Yeah. Why? What happens when you've tried?
This is just not recently.
Oh, I'm not sure. Maybe it wasn't the number of charts. Maybe there was another factor like the number of symbols that you're trying to access, and you know, eSignal gets tough with that too. It could have been another factor than the number of charts. But okay, now this layout that I have here is horrible. Obviously, it's just all over the place, so it's not the best example. I can fix that, of course, by tiling the charts. Let's talk about another couple of reasons that you might want to have multiple pages. You might want to have a page that's all your long-term stocks that you're looking at. And you don't need to see that except for end of day or early in the morning. You have another chart with your intraday futures. Another page, I mean, or as Chris mentioned, you might have all your 60-minute currencies. A 60-minute currency page. Then you might say, hey, you know what, on the 60-minute pound, this is happening and it's interesting, so I want to open my pound page that has all of my pound stuff. There's a whole bunch of reasons why. Again, it's up to you and your own trading as to why you might arrange pages. Arranging pages, though, is really easier than it seems. Usually, most people, when they start arranging pages, get confused by it in the program. And again, it's because the program offers you a lot of options how to do that. Let me just clean this up a little bit using the window command. I'm just going to tile my current charts. Okay, that's a real mess, isn't it? Because I have a lot of charts on here. Let's actually get rid of some of them and I can reopen them another time. Just minimize them. Okay, let's say I wanted to make a page just with my main Russell charts. My mini Russell. Okay, so I'm just going to minimize the ones that I don't want. And we'll take these guys and arrange them the way I want to see them. Okay? And for some reason, let's say I'm considering this one important at the moment. So this is a layout that I want to save. I might not want it open all the time, so I'm not just going to close the program. If I were to close the program right now and reopen it tomorrow, what would it look like? What would come up? Exactly. Exactly. But I want to have access to this layout without necessarily having this is my only layout. Page. Okay? Page is here. Page is also here. This icon. Doesn't matter which one you choose. There's even Control G. You know, Carlos likes this idea of each of us can find our own way of doing it. It makes it look a little confusing though because there's 100 ways of doing something. All get to the same place. I just hit the one thing that says page. Up there, the menu item that says page. And what do you do for the page? Page menu to save the page. Page menu here. Save page. Okay? Or if you're saving a new version of an old, you had a layout and you changed it and you want to save them both, you use save page as. Just like in a word processing document. When you write something and you save it and then you edit it and you want to save both copies, you would save the new copy with a new name. That would be save page as. So let's call this Russell experiment. Okay? An option I have chosen here, include minimize charts. What that will do is it'll save this page for me. It'll also save the charts that I have minimized. And when I reopen the page, it'll open all these pages, all these charts, including the minimized ones, minimized. Everyone get that? Let me give you the option. I actually realized just now I don't want it to do that. Because this is my Russell layout, I don't need to have my minimized S&P charts and my minimized YM charts. So I'm going to cancel this. Tell it not to include the minimized charts. Okay? Page, save page, Russell experiment. Okay, now all it's saved are those three charts. The rest are minimized, and I just told the program to ignore the minimized charts.
Question.
Yeah.
How do you know when you're flipping from page to page which page you're currently on?
You know, we'll have to go through that and take a look to see because I forgot. And
What about that other box? It's a close.
that's when you open, okay, I'll show you, yeah, in other words, let's say I close these charts now. I'm actually closing them. And now I'm going to open one of these, just any other chart at random. Okay, open the page menu. Now I want to get those charts back, Russell experiment charts. If I double click Russell experiment, it will open those charts again. If I first put a check mark in close all charts and open page, it'll get rid of everything that's on here first and open only those charts here.
Otherwise, you get those charts plus the one.
Right. So the way, this is how this can be used. Let's actually do this. Here we go. There. See, it closed everything else and opened those. The reason you might want to do that, have that option, is because let's say you had 3 or 4 pages that you access during the day, okay? And you start off the day looking at one of your pages. Then you decide that you want to look at a different page, your stock layout, for instance. You can choose then whether or not you want to keep the other layout open. It takes a minute or so to switch between them. If you instead open you have one page open, you open another page. When you open that menu again, double click on the first page, it'll just bring those charts to the foreground. Okay, part of that also is a matter of how powerful your computer is. You might, and if you open each page and don't allow it to close the other charts, you might bog your computer down if you open up all your stock charts and all your futures charts and all your, and so on. So you have that option. Do you want to save the charts that are all minimized, have those all open at the same time? Do you want to open a page, close the prior page? Do you want to have 2 pages open at once and alternate between them? Then you wouldn't have a check mark in that box to close. Okay, that's the page deal. Any questions about that? I know we had a few people write in saying they had questions about using the page function, so I'd like to make sure that's, yeah.
So let's say, for instance, you have a stock page. Let's say you have different stocks. Let's say you have utilities.
Right.
Utility page.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have all that stuff in utilities. Yet you want to log your computer down, so you can bring that up if you want to. Otherwise, you can close all that. First, you got to open them all, and then you got to go to the page.
No. Once you create,
You got to get the information.
once you create the page, in other words, when you first had all your utility stocks up, you created that page. In other words, you created a layout where there are utilities. Save page, don't close, no close. Save page, call it utilities. Okay?
Page as.
Yeah. Well, yeah, or if it had never been created before, you could just be save page. Yeah, either way. Doesn't matter. If you want to be safest about it, always use save page as. It really doesn't matter. Save the page. Then close the charts, create another page with, I don't know, some other sector. Yeah. Then when you want to see the utilities again, you go page, right here. Okay, or page, open your page menu, double-click utilities, and it brings it up.
It is, yeah, okay. So what does that mean when it's closed? Is that's not going to hurt? I mean, that's not.
No, when it's closed, it's not doing anything with your computer. Yeah.
Information in there, so you open it up.
Right. As a matter of fact, Carlos made an adjustment to the program a few versions back that helps. It helps a lot for people who were getting slowdowns. In the past, I think it was prior to R74, revision 74. In the past, the program was gathering data for every symbol that you had. Even if it wasn't doing the calculations on indicators or anything, so it wasn't really bogging everything down. But if you had a provider like eSignal where they give you a lot of data, and you had 100 symbols, it was actually collecting the data and filing it for each of the 100 symbols. The change that he made was that it only now collects data for open charts, and it's made a huge difference. Yes, Jeff?
How do we know if we have the most current revision in software?
Well, go to help. A couple of ways. Go to help and look at about, and it says R78 here. Once in a while, go check the website. See what the most recent is that's on the website available for. Download it from the website. The other way to do it, always a good idea, is join the Fibonacci Trader users group. If you're into it, if you don't mind doing that, some people don't. You have to basically open a free Yahoo email address account. Or I think they allow you now to register with another email address. If you look at the Fibonacci Trader homepage, down here towards the bottom, join the Fibonacci Trader users group. And that is a mailing list on Yahoo that gives let me rephrase that. Carlos sometimes posts information about revisions to the program there. The most valuable use of the users group is experienced Fibonacci Trader users trade information there. You can post a question. There's no one nasty on there either. You can come in and say, I have never used this program before and I don't know how to do this. And within half an hour, you'll have people answering you saying, well, here's one way and here's another way. Here's a screenshot of how to do it. There's a lot of really, really powerful information on there. If you're not familiar with the Yahoo bulletin boards, one of the good things is it archives all of the messages that go back and forth on there. So you can actually scroll back over the last year if you wanted to and see everything that's been discussed and all the information. You can search on them too. Let's say you want to know how to put an alarm on the chart. Search alarm and you'll get all the conversation threads people had about alarms on there, and all the different ways of doing it and all the reasons they do it, and every time it hasn't worked and why hasn't it worked, and so on and so forth. Very good resource. And in Carlos, usually what happens is either I'll say to Carlos, you know what, the program is really messing up this way. Or someone else will say, Carlos, you know what? This would work 100 times better if you did it this way. Carlos will stay up all night, program something. He puts a notice on the board that says, now we have beta version 80. Anyone who wants to try a beta can download it here. And it'll be up on the site within a week for people who want to wait. So, it's a good way of getting right in touch with the company about features that you'd like added also. As long as you can explain why you need something changed, he's all ears. Okay, so that's the page issue. I think we covered that stuff. Any questions about things we've been talking about this morning so far? Again, I know this stuff is kind of dry, but we just want to make sure that everyone is up to speed before we start talking methodologies and stuff. Oh, can we have that as a chart alarm?
There's nothing that tells us what, because sometimes what happens to me is I'm flipping through pages and I'm like, what page am I on? And it can have an effect on, whether
right.
Keep or move over, the layout and so on.
Yeah, no, I guess there is nothing that indicates that. I can kind of understand that because also you have the option when you open the page of adding the page. I think some of these other pages that I have here have older expired contracts and stuff, so I can't really use them.
Like if I've added to a page, I want to rename it or whatever.
Right.
I go back in there and which one do I want to rename or which one do I,
Go to the users group and suggest it to Carlos. You have him right here now, so I think you have a more direct line. Yeah, that's a good suggestion, and something that will tell you what the page is. That's interesting. What Chris just mentioned is you might want to add to a page things to consider in a page. Okay, I have this one. Let's say now I want to open another chart. Let's say, what do I want here? I want no, I don't want cocoa on this. I want a Euro futures just because it's convenient. I don't know, a 15-minute chart. And the reason I'm showing you this, what did I just open? Why does it have no data? Oh, because it's gathering the data. Oh, bless you. Okay, there we go. Here's Euro futures, 15-minute. Now, if I wanted for some reason to have this added to this page, this is a case where I would go page save as, because I want both the old version and this version. So this one I'm going to call Russell Euro experiment. Okay? And now, let's say I went back to my page menu, left checked, close all charts and open page. Well, now when I go back to just Russell experiment, I was thinking about it. All it did was get rid of the Euro page. See? The problem with this, the problem you can get into, the trouble you can get into, is if you don't realize how many charts you have open. Like, let's say I had added that Euro page. Let's reopen that. And now I also say, oh, you know what? I want to take a look at crude, and I want to take a look at this, and I want to take a look at that. And then I save the page again. Then I'm going to ask myself tomorrow, how come when I open Russell Experiment, I have crude and Euro and all this stuff? Save the pages with only the charts open that you want. And as many formats as you want to do it, though. Save Russell page, save Russell and Euro page, save as many different variants on that. But be aware of which charts are actually opening when you're saving a page. That's something that people are always talking about too, the rude surprise. I saved a page and it should only be my Russell charts. Well, it's not going to be only your Russell charts if you resave the page and you have 10 other charts open. That's the way it is. So I think we've covered pages, probably to death. No questions at this point. Okay. Did you want to show any setup stuff over there? You want to swap over or wait until, we're going to do lunch in half an hour. So what would you guys like to talk about at this point? No questions about anything? Anything you want to jump? Did you want to swap? Or?
No, I think you did pretty good. So templates, pages, chart setup. Maybe something on cleaning up your tools bar, which tools you want, we want on there, which ones you don't. But, because there may be some tools that you have no interest in, they're just cluttering up, you know, congesting your workspace.
Okay, well, you want to play with that?
Sure.
Okay, we could swap if you want, or do it after. Okay. Here. Enjoy.
Thank you. Sometimes I've fussed with these tools, and it's been so long since I was back in there playing with them because I've got everything laid out that because I don't normally instruct on this. But let's say, for example, I mean, you have a list of, you've got your toolbars open here. You've got obviously various toolbars, and you want to simply get rid of some of the ones that you don't use. I'm a believer in just using, I know what tools I like to use. There are certain ones that I'm not interested in. That's not to say that I have not gone in there and sort of explored what that tool does and what it means. I'm often quite interested in, I mean, there's obviously a multitude of tools, but if there's ones that I've decided that I simply am not going to use, I'm not interested in, there's no sense in that tool cluttering up my workspace because I like to have as good a view as possible. So